Hello and welcome to the Spreadex Six, brought to you by WhoScored. I'm your host, George Elek, and I'm joined online, virtually this time, by the man himself, Jack Wright, as we look ahead to this weekend's Premier League fixtures. 6 bets, a total goals bet, total corners, bookings, player goal minutes, multi-markets, and match performance makes up the Spreadex Six. Jack, how are you getting on? Not sitting side by side in the studio this time, but that's not going to make any impact to the quality of the tips you're going to put up.
No, it's all right. The tips will be the same. It will just be that emotional connection I'll be missing.
Exactly. I can feel it now. It's fine. It's
okay.
all good.
Good.
Well, let's get into it with the first selection. It's always a goals pick, and as always the case with the Spreadex Six, if you go into the description of this video, you can click on the link. New customers to Spreadex, click on that link, set up an account, and you'll get a totally free £10 goals spread bet that you can use ahead of the weekend's football. And you might want to use Jack's tip, which is in the big game of the weekend. It is Liverpool, of course, hosting Manchester City, 4:30 on Sunday. And Jack, knowing me and knowing you, I reckon you're buying.
Yeah, we're going to have to here, aren't we? Let's face it. It's a huge game. It's probably been the biggest game over the last 4 or 5 seasons in the Premier League. Slightly different context to it this time round, given Liverpool's struggles at the start of the season. But still, making no bones about it, an absolutely huge game. And one thing that I don't expect to change too much is the fact that it's had a massive history of goals. Obviously, Liverpool will be desperate for the win. They go into the weekend down in 10th place, 13 points off Manchester City. So Man City will be desperate for a win here to stretch a 16-point gap between them and what they're assuming to be their closest rivals going into the season. And of course, Arsenal are even further ahead than that. So they play before Liverpool and Man City this weekend, so could stretch their lead further at the top of the table. So, as I said, one thing that has been a common theme in these games over the last few seasons is goals. The last 5 in all competitions have seen at least 4 goals. Both sides have scored 11 as well, so evenly matched. Liverpool have conceded 3 in their last 2 Premier League games, including their last one at Anfield, which was that crazy 3-3 draw with Brighton, of course, where they found themselves 2 goals down inside 17 minutes. They've been scoring plenty of goals themselves. Of course, scored 3 that day. Also scored 7 this week in the Champions League. Sorry, Rangers fans, for bringing that one up so soon. But, of course, Manchester City are the kings of goals. They have scored 33 goals this season in their 9 games. 3.67 goals per game average, and that's just from them. As I said, conceded 9, so the easy maths, as I always like to say, an extra 1 means that their total goals at games this season have seen an average of 4.67. They've only twice failed to score 3 in any game this season as well. And of course, I don't know if you've heard of him, they've got a guy up front called Haaland who has scored 15 goals. Yeah, I know. Yeah, search him. He's quite decent. Fully rested as well, of course, having not come off the bench in Copenhagen this week in Man City's game as well, where they did rest quite a few players. So expecting them to go full throttle in this one. And therefore, we're happy buying goals at quite a high line, but understandably so. 3.45.
3.45 to buy total goals. Liverpool versus Man City is the goal selection. Onto total corners now. And the next 2 selections, total corners and total bookings from the same game. It is Spurs who host Everton. Start with the corners, buying at 11. What's the thinking here?
The thinking is that there's going to be a lot of corners.
That's good.
Indeed, which is what we're looking for. Now, we have played Everton a few times this season so far, and it's generally because they do tend to concede a lot at home. Away from home, they actually are a little bit more kind of sharing the load a little bit, but the averages do stack up quite well. So I'll run through them quite quickly. As far as Spurs are concerned, they rank second as far as corners won at home are concerned. At the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, they're averaging 8.5 corners per game. Only Newcastle have a higher average than that, and we've won on them a few times this season as well. So hopefully Spurs will follow that trend through. And they're very consistent, winning 6, 8 and 10 twice so far in their home games. As far as the total match corners at Spurs are concerned, ranked 5th in the league. A decent average, though. 11.5 is the average there. The only game that kind of slipped under that considerably was the game against Leicester, which was very one-sided, ended 6-2 to Spurs. But outside of that, where there was only 7 corners, we've seen 12, 13 and 14 in their home games. Everton, 6th highest corner average away from home, which is quite good considering their sort of relatively low league position. 5.25 is their corner average. And again, only 1 game for them has seen them have a little bit of a blip where they won 2, but they've won 5, 6 and 8. So decent totals on the road. And as far as their flag kick average is concerned in the total match away from home, Number 1, no team has a higher away average for match corners than Everton. 51 across their 4 road trips so far, an average of 12.75. And, crucially, very consistent, 12 once and 13 on the other 3 occasions. Buying at 11.
Buying at 11. And the same game for booking points. This is 10 points for a yellow card, 25 points for a red card. You're buying at 42. We know this is a market where you've done pretty well this season. Spurs v Everton, plenty of corners. And hopefully plenty of bookings too.
Indeed so, yeah. We say it every week, this is our favourite market. Another 12 points of profit added last week where we saw another 6 yellow cards. So we're up to plus 85 points in this market this season. So say the best we have. Very good indeed. Third referee in a row to show 6 yellow cards when we've picked them out to do so, which is very nice indeed. Jared Gillett started that role. Then we had Rob Jones. And then the main man, Paul Tierney, did not let us down last week, showing another 6 yellow cards. And of course, using the Spreadex point system here, that worked out at 60 booking points. So we're going to buy at 42 here. And the phrase is, if it's not broke, don't fix it. So we're going back. Paul Tierney, you're up again. Let's see what you've got. This is for a clash of 2 sides that rank 5th and 7th as far as yellow card collection in the league is concerned this season. Everton has seen 21 players cautioned, Spurs 18, and also a red card to boot as well. So we'll take those extra bonus ones for sure. This fixture last season ended 5-0 to Spurs. So very one-sided. It was 3-0 at half-time, and then they completely killed the game in the first minute of the second half. So as always, with these kind of prop markets, if it's very one-sided, we tend to suffer a little bit with it. There was only 2 yellow cards in that game. However, the reverse fixture was a 0-0 draw, much more competitive, much more how we like it. 6 yellow cards, 1 red card, 85 points in that game. So happy days. Spurs games average 46.11 booking points this season so far. Everton, 44.44, and that does rise to 47.5 when they're playing away from home. And of course, the star of the show, forget about these players, Harry Kane and Paul Tierney. His average has now gone up to 52.86, and feeling like a Radio 1 DJ from the 90s, he has gone back to number 1. He has the highest card per game booking point average now, and as we've said before, he's only dropped below 40 booking points in 1 game so far this season. So in chronological order, here we go. Started the season with 50, 85, 65, then that 10, which was that Man City 6 Forest 0 game. Then he's bounced back in style, 60, 40 and 60. And as you mentioned last week, no red in 4 games now. So he's going to get a red ticket out, right?
Let's hope so. It sounds like it's about time he does. I think on a Sunday night, you should take on the official UK top 40 and do your own, just a podcast, just a refereeing stats, just the updated top
Fantastic. 10. Yeah, the booking points top 10. Yeah. Do you know anyone who could host that for me?
I've got an idea. We'll talk numbers after. Don't worry about it. Bookings 42 to buy Spurs v Everton. Now I'm going to do something here which is unheard of in the Spreadex Six, and regular viewers, don't be alarmed. But we are going to skip past player goal minutes for a second and do the multi markets now because it makes sense. Because the multi markets is of course 2 match events multiplied by each other. Corners by bookings. We've heard you're buying corners in the Spurs-Everton game. We've heard that you're buying bookings in the Spurs-Everton game. Multi-markets. Corners times by bookings. 460. What are you doing?
I was going to offer a prize for guessing which game I was going to go to, but even Spreadex aren't generous enough to be able to want to do that because it's obvious. Yeah. I'm going to go and obviously combine what we've now talked about, booking points and corners in that Spurs versus Everton game. There's not much more I need to say. We've gone for it in detail, but just to kind of reiterate, the averages so far this season and combine them together so we get an idea of what we're looking at. We always say this is a highly volatile market. 460 is the line for this. My best tip is to try and work backwards. Work out what your biggest loss could be. 460 times your stake, and then you can work forward from there with what we're looking to win. As far as is concerned, Spurs home and Everton away averages for corners is exactly 12. Booking points, combined average is 43.75. So let's put those 2 together. That comes to 525. I'm a poor man's Rachel Riley, I know. But there we go. So 525 is based on their averages so far this season. We're buying at 460, so you can see we have a good chance if everyone comes to the party.
Fingers crossed they do. Move on to player goal minutes now. This is selling or buying the total amount of minutes a player scores in. So multiplying if they score more than 1. You're going for another lower line this time. Brighton's Solly March. What's the thinking here? Buying at 6.
Well, we've worked together long enough this season now, George, for you to know that I get very excitable and I can't wait to play a game. And of course, Friday night football gives me the opportunity to get in nice and early. And here it is. Of course, there is a better reason than that, and I'll go on to that now. This does look like it should be quite a lot of fun to watch, actually, between these two sides. Brentford's last 2 at home have seen 10 goals, 5 scored, 5 against. Arsenal scored 3 against them, Leeds scored 2 against them, and of course Newcastle hit 5, albeit at St James's Park at the weekend. They've now shipped 17 goals in total, and only the bottom 2, Forest and Leicester and Fulham, have conceded more goals than that in the Premier League so far this season. And they're up against the Brighton side now under the tutelage, of course, of De Zerbi, who we assume will be a pretty attack-minded manager, pretty attack-minded coach, and showed that in his only away game for Brighton so far this season, where they went to Anfield and went and took the game to them. Scored 3 goals there, including 2 in the opening 17 minutes. So we should expect a ferocious start from the Seagulls. Let's see. But why Solly March, I hear you ask?
I do.
Good. You did. And, well, the reason is...
Why Solly March?
Yeah, thank you. The reason I mentioned it is last week we said, if you don't buy a lottery ticket, you're not going to bring us the jackpot. Well, he certainly loves to buy a ticket, and he's had at least one shot in all but one Premier League game so far this season. In fact, he likes to multi-shoot, to say the least. He had as many as 6 in one game. That was against Leicester. He's also hit 4 and 3 in separate games as well. And the good thing is that, we do see these players that will have a dig from range and it'll go rosette or out for a throw-in. He is fairly accurate as well. He's had 3 on target in one game against Leeds. He's had 2 on target in separate games against Leicester and against Newcastle. Interesting stat for you, George. I know you love your stats. So here we go. Of the players who are yet to score in the Premier League so far this season, no one has had more shots than Solly March. He's had 18 in total. And of those players who have yet to score, none have had more shots on target than Solly March, who has had 8 in total. Putting that into context, he only had 20 shots and 10 on target in his 31 games last season, so he's completely upped his levels. And checking out on WhoScored.com, I saw where that pitched him as far as the Premier League's concerned. He ranks 21 overall for shots and 13th as far as shots on target, so just outside the top 10. That puts him alongside Ivan Toney, who obviously plays against on Friday night, Bukayo Saka from Arsenal, and his teammate Leandro Trossard. And that's one more than a fairly decent list of 3 players. Rodrigo for Leeds, a certain Mo Salah, and Kevin De Bruyne. So we're buying Solly March goal minutes at 6.
Wow, I'm now also excited for Friday Night Football. Solly March, the selection there for Brighton at Brentford at 6. Finally, match performance. This is where you're awarded points for each game event, such as goals, cards, penalties being awarded, corners, and minus 25 points for a 0-0 draw. You like to sell here, Jack. As I say, you buy, and then you sell right at the end. And Wolves hosting Forest in this one, you're selling at 83.
Yeah, I'm probably going to not make you so excited for this one, but let's see. Look, we made profit on Wolves last week, despite them conceding 3 goals. And I did mention last week, sometimes to win a fight, you do need to take a little punch on the nose. And I expected it to be elsewhere other than the goals. But 3 goals was a little bit more than we expected, possibly. But the corners were low and the cards were exactly where we expect them to be. Just 2 from Super Hooper last week. So we made profit again in that market. So very nice indeed. And we're going to take these on because the stats haven't changed an awful lot for Wolves. Still only scored 3 goals this season, a pitiful amount. Still only 3 teams have a lower XG than them as well. They're the 3rd lowest in the league for shots on target. And interestingly, one of the sides below them is Nottingham Forest. And Forest had the next fewest amount of goals scored as well, with 7. Forest do like to concede plenty of shots. They have conceded the most shots per game in the league. However, Wolves have the lowest shot conversion rate in the league at amazing 1.9%. So not very good there. So hopefully all those things will continue and we will get a very low scoring draw. If not, probably the favourite bet of the weekend would be a 0-0 in this one. As far as corners are concerned, Forest had the lowest corner per game average at just 3.2. And Wolves are not much better at 4.67. Their overall averages are around 10, but they're generally made up of the opposition scoring and getting a few corners. So we'll see what happens on that one today. But around that, between 8 and 10, we'll definitely take. And as far as the referee's concerned, a bit of a new boy to the Premier League, Thomas Bramall. In fact, a very new boy. It was his first season as a Premier League official. Only 2 Premier League appearances so far. He took Fulham versus Brighton, and he showed 3 yellow cards. He took Bournemouth versus Brentford, and he showed 3 yellow cards. Although Forest have collected the most yellow cards in the league so far with 27, and Wolves are mid-table, I'm hoping that this lenient referee and a fairly boring match will lead to him keeping that average nice and low, and therefore confidently selling this game match performance at 83.
There you go, 83 selling in that final game. Wolves against Forest, hoping for a board draw, but hopefully plenty of corners and bookings in the Spurs-Everton game and goals in Liverpool versus Man City. That makes up Jack Spreadex 6 ahead of this week's Premier League games. Do check out Spreadex for all of your spread betting needs across all sports ahead of the weekend and onwards as well. And do click on that link below if you haven't already got an account. Sign up for an account and you can get that free £10 goal bet to go alongside too. Do head over to the WhoScored site, WhoScored.com, where you can find all your stats needs across all leagues across Europe, major leagues in Europe and in the EFL as well, to help inform your bets. And do subscribe to the WhoScored YouTube channel, where you can find the Spreadex 6 every week and plenty more content up there as well. Make sure you gamble responsibly. Hopefully a couple of winners there from Jack. Enjoy the football. Remember that losses with spread betting can exceed your initial deposit, and please ensure that you're gambling responsibly.